If you receive an email from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention or the World Health Organization about the coronavirus outbreak, would you read it? Maybe click on a link. Well, cyber criminals are counting on it. The outbreak is a dream come true for criminals who will use it as a basis for email attacks designed to snag personal info, steal your money, and infect computers with malware. Joining me today to talk the future of cybersecurity is Robert Herjavec. He's the founder and CEO of the Herjavec Group, and he's also the star of the hit TV series Shark Tank. Robert, welcome to the show. We finally get to meet.
Thank you.
I've had all the sharks on besides you. You were the missing puzzle. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So of course, there's so much phishing going on now, attacking and preying on people's fear of this coronavirus outbreak. What can people do to protect themselves here?
Yeah, you made a great point. 85% of all malware in North America today comes through fake emails or phishing. And the way to get a great phishing email, my whole goal in sending you a bad email is to get you to open it. So anything I can do to get you to open it when you're vulnerable is going to work. So typically what people do is they steal my email address and they make it look like the email came from me, hoping you'd open it, or I'm a friend. Hey, we went to school. But things like the coronavirus are so top of mind because people are at work, they're thinking about it, they want to learn more, and then they see something from Disease Center for Control and they open it. Natural disasters are really prime for phishing emails, and so are anything where the Red Cross is involved. Any natural disaster, because at our core, we're nice and we want to help others.
Of course.
And we get an email from the Red Cross, we want to open it, we want to click on it. Corona is anything along that line that dominates headlines is prime for phishing.
So how do you know who to trust? Because maybe it is a real Red Cross email and then you're missing out on a chance to is there any way to identify or know, or is the best protocol just don't open it?
Yeah, my general rule is I don't trust anybody.
Right.
But my general rule for people that work at companies is anything that isn't business oriented, that you don't know the source of, you probably shouldn't be opening up at work.
Right.
I think it's one thing to open up a personal email in your personal email account and get phished on that. It's inconvenient, and maybe they'll get some of your personal information. But to be a relay point to the rest of the company is really bad. So just be careful who you open emails from.
I guess the other top of mind discussion right now is the presidential election. We saw the threats to cybersecurity in the last one. Robert Mueller, back in May was saying, we got caught, with our pants down during the last presidential election. Do you feel we're going to start seeing the same tampering happen again with this election, or are we prepared?
I do very much. And I think it's really unfortunate because I was highly optimistic in the last election. The biggest challenge with democracy and the political system is getting people to vote. The people that complain don't vote. Younger people, it's hard to get them to vote. My big hope in the last election was we're going to have electronic voting. Because if I can vote from my phone, from an app, guess what? You're going to have voting rates way above 30%. With what happened in the last election, what it's made people realize is it's fundamentally not safe. I was reading something about the New Hampshire primary, and the big thing is they're paper ballots. And they were actually trumpeting that they're paper ballots. But just think how backwards we've gone to trumpet that something is paper and not connected to the internet. The fundamental core infrastructure is always vulnerable to attack, and the political system is primed for it. And there's nothing more powerful than influence. Money is good, personal information is good, government influence is better.
A lot of people are concerned about their online privacy from social media sites like Facebook. We know about their sale of personal data, but how likely is it that large tech companies are being hacked here, Robert?
Pretty likely. I think everyone's being hacked. Every company that's online is being hacked. It's not a matter of are they being hacked? It's what are they doing when they get hacked? Robert Mueller had a great saying, which was, there's only two types of companies, those that have been hacked and those that are about to be hacked. So as a security practitioner, what I tell people is, I can't stop you from being hacked, but I can create an ecosystem that when you have an intrusion, you can quickly know what's going on. My expectation is that those companies are taking care of my data. But I have to tell you, I'm really tired of it. Every time I go to a store, like I went to a Barnes & Noble the other day. They wanted to know my email address. They wanted to know where I live. Like, I don't need that.
Right, so
I
just
want to
say
buy
no,
something.
right?
Just say no.
And I love when they say, but we're not going to send you any emails. We just want your email, right?
Yeah.
But so
I went to a young millennial cool fashion shop, and I felt so bad. There was this young person behind the counter, and I wanted to buy this, and he said, "You have to fill this out." And I just looked at him and said, "No." and he looked at me and he said, "I don't know what to do. I don't know how to ring up your sale." And I'm like, "Just opt out of it." He goes,
Right.
"No one has ever not
Wow.
agreed to do
Wow.
it." But that's today. So all that information is being collected by these big media companies, and they're selling it because that's how they make money. They're in the business of selling our information. It's not necessarily bad. Like if you think about it, some of this is good. Like when I watch Netflix,
Right.
I want Netflix to tell me what other shows I like.
Okay.
I find that convenient. If I like a certain type of sweater by a certain vendor, I don't mind getting suggestions on that. But all the information's out there. You got to be very careful what you
wow.
have.
How about on a state level? Like, what are the chances of having an attack on a state level that could affect the global economy?
It's happening all
the
the
time.
time. Yeah, it's not so much about a state level. The big fear is that an attack will cause an infrastructure failure
Right.
that affects human life. So if you extrapolate this, somebody attacks air control
Right.
system, somebody attacks the subway. Big one is autonomous cars. Every car now has a Wi-Fi connection. Within a few years, we're going to have fully autonomous cars. If you hack a car, it can be
Wow.
a vehicle to do damage.
It's just such a scary world we're living in, Robert.
I know,
right?
it is.
And it's like you want to just
But it's not. It is scary. The problem is it's so quick. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
It's
right.
when something bad happens, it's so immediate. I think that's what people find scary. And the promise of the internet, the promise of convenience is so powerful.
Right.
We always get scared
Do you
when
think
something
there's
happens.
certain countries that have it down better than others? Like I know Canada had implemented stricter, anti-spam legislation years ago
Right.
and whatnot. Do you think that some people just get it more than other countries right now, or
I think-
something that you admire?
I think all countries are getting better
Right.
at it. I think the state of California has a GDPR-like a privacy law, which is great. This is where the role of government really needs to step up. The government needs to protect my private information.
Exactly.
I think that's the
Right.
role of government. I don't trust big corporations to protect my data, but I can't stop them from taking it.
Right.
I expect the government to control that. And what we find in general in business is when there's money involved, people tend to do the right thing. The big thing with GDPR, which is the privacy law in the States, it has a penalty that if you compromise your customers' data, you could be subject to a 4% penalty of your global sales. Companies are taking that very seriously. We're going to see the same thing in the United States, and we're going to see the same thing in Canada.
Let's talk about less scary things here. Shark Tank, you are in town promoting the
Shark Tank is pretty scary.
Actually, facing
on.
the sharks, I have no interest in doing
I don't know
that.
how people do it, by the way. You know what people don't realize is we've never met those people. Like when those doors open, we've never met them. We don't even know their name.
Wow.
The average pitch is about an hour, and it gets edited into
Right,
7 minutes.
into 7
but
minutes,
think
yeah.
of the guts those people have.
I can't. I know, and I've interviewed many of them, many of the
you
entrepreneurs
have?
that have, like Blue Land was just on and whatnot. And I always ask them, what does it feel like when those doors open?
And what did they say?
They say it's the most terrifying experience of their lives.
Well, just to get to the
but you're the
set-
nice shark.
Some days.
Yeah, you
Some
have the
days.
good reputation.
Yeah,
You're
I find the show so inspiring because, we've been on TV 11 years and you go through days, just like any day, you're like, oh gosh, another day. And then those doors open and you see somebody who created a product or had an idea, and this is their chance to change their life.
To change their lives.
And that is the essence of hope.
And what's interesting is when Shark Tank was launched, that was in the midst of the financial crisis, right?
Worst time to start a
Right,
business.
worst
show.
time to. So how do you feel? How have the entrepreneurs? Do you see an evolution from 2008 to today? Have things changed?
Yeah. We're almost like the mirror for the U.S. economy. When we first started, people couldn't get a loan because banks weren't lending.
Right.
So the big thing was about getting a loan. Today, there's lots of money out there. The issue is not getting a loan, because what's interest rate? Today, the cost of money is basically free. The big issue now is, how do I reach a wide audience online? And the other big issue that we see now is social causes. Every new business has some sort of a bigger cause.
So does that get you a better chance of getting, like, what's some secrets to success to getting the shark's attention?
Having a social cause doesn't help you get a deal. Not having one hurts your ability to get a deal. Big one for all of us is you. The number one thing we invest in is the person. Right? Because 11 years, we've more or less seen every type of food product, every type of toilet product.
I always wonder, is the food cold or hot when they make you eat it, Robert? Because I'm like, how long has it been?
We're hungry. They don't feed us.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're doing a greatest of all time episode as well.
Yep. And I found out why we're doing that. It started with Jeopardy, which is a great show.
Okay.
You know, they have the greatest of all time.
Yeah, smart.
So somebody at ABC said, this is a great idea. We should do a greatest of all time for everything on ABC.
Yes.
So and at first I was skeptical, but I've seen clips of it, and it's a great show. We're looking back on 11 years, the greatest fights, the greatest pitches, the worst greatest pitches, all those kind of things.
So I know you can't give spoilers, but like looking back in your Shark Tank journey, what were some of your favorite investments for you? What are some of the greatest?
You know, my greatest moments I can't reveal because I don't want them to ask me the question. And I thought of something that I had never realized until they asked me the question about the show. In 11 years, never connected those dots. And it was really emotional. It almost made me cry. I never connected those dots. But you know, 11 years, for me, the enduring quality is the constant optimism that we give people. Nobody watches Shark Tank and doesn't feel better after. Now, some people feel better because they're making fun of the people pitching.
Right.
But nobody watches. How many shows on television can you say that about today? Shows that inspire you, make you think, and you can watch with your family.
Exactly, and you can watch with the whole family and not cringe. And it's perfect at any time of day. It helps me fall asleep at night. Not that the content's boring, but it's just soothing. And I'm a huge Shark Tank fan, full disclosure. So that's wonderful. And you're moving to Friday nights.
Friday nights. We were on Fridays.
Yeah, and you're moving back.
Yeah, we're moving back. And we think we're going to bring the audience with us. Our audience is very loyal. Thank you.
And how much longer can Shark Tank go on? It seems like it's limitless. People want more and more of the show.
I think Shark Tank will go on as long as I have hair.
Well, you have a full head of hair,
Because the minute I don't have hair, people confuse Kevin and I. They're like, which is the guy without hair?
But you know what I think is awesome is that you guys all hang out outside of the show too. Like you're really friends with the sharks.
We are.
Right?
That's the weird thing.
Right?
We really like each other.
My husband was asking me today, he's like, I bet they don't hang out. I said, actually, you're wrong. They do hang out outside. Like I know Robert hangs out with Kevin and Barbara. And
we have this thing. Every time we go to a city that one of the other sharks lives in, we text the shark that lives in that city. And then that shark texts all the other sharks, and we all try to get together.
You guys are a family.
We are. We're a big dysfunctional family, but we are a family.
It works.
Yes.
It works. Robert Herjavec, it was a pleasure finally meeting you, and continued success with Shark Tank every Friday night.
Every Friday.
Every Friday night. Don't miss it. And thank you for watching. We'll have much more for you, so be sure to stay tuned.